Right now, somewhere in Washington, a man in a dark suit is standing perfectly still. His eyes aren't on the crowd in front of him. They're on the rooftops, the windows, the hands in every pocket he can see. He hasn't blinked in what feels like 10 seconds. Nobody around him has noticed he exists. That's the entire point of him. He is not famous. You will never know his name. But for the next several minutes, his entire existence depends on one single question: what does it actually take to become that man? You think you know. Sunglasses. An earpiece. A calm voice saying, "We're moving." But that image is the last stop on a ladder most people never see the bottom of. Before the suit, before the earpiece, before anyone trusts you within 100 feet of the most protected human beings on Earth, you have to survive 9 ranks. Some of them will humble you. One of them might get you killed. Let's start at the bottom. You are 24 years old and you just opened an email. It says you've been accepted to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. You expected relief. Instead you feel your stomach drop. Because you already know what's coming. 11 weeks of criminal law, firearms qualification, defensive tactics, and driving courses designed to simulate a car bomb going off behind you at 60 miles an hour. You will run until your legs stop answering you. You will get shot at with marking rounds until flinching stops being a reflex. You will sit in a windowless room and answer the same interrogation question 15 different ways, because instructors need to know if pressure makes you sharper or makes you fold. Roughly 1 in 3 people who start this training do not finish it. Not because they aren't smart enough. Because their body never learns to stay calm when their brain is screaming to run. There's a reason for that gap, and it isn't about courage in the way people usually mean it. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how the human brain actually makes decisions, and he found something uncomfortable. Under real threat, your mind defaults to fast, automatic reactions instead of careful reasoning. Most people can't override that in the moment. It's not a character flaw. It's just how the machine is built. The ones who make it through Glencoe are the rare few who train that automatic response until it becomes reliable instead of reckless. You graduate. You're issued a badge, a service weapon, and a stack of forms taller than your first paycheck. Your first assignment has almost nothing to do with presidents. You're staring at a stack of counterfeit $100 bills under a desk lamp in a field office at 11 at night, because most people don't know the Secret Service was actually founded to fight fake currency decades before it ever protected a president full-time. This is rank 2. You're a junior special agent working financial crime. Wire fraud. Counterfeiting rings running out of a garage 2 states away. Cyber intrusions into regional banks that nobody outside the industry will ever hear about. It's slow. It's paperwork. It's surveillance vans that smell like old coffee and cold pizza. You spend weeks building a case file against a man you've never met, learning his habits from bank statements and grainy security footage until you know his patterns better than your own. But it's where they quietly find out whether you can sit still for 14 hours and still notice the one detail that changes everything. Can you? You get promoted. Rank 3. Protective intelligence. Now your job is reading threatening letters mailed to government buildings. Unhinged social media posts flagged by an algorithm at 3 in the morning. Court filings from people who genuinely believe they've been chosen to stop a world leader. You build psychological profiles on strangers who might never act on a single word they've written, and you have to decide, every single day, which ones might. Some files you close within an hour. Some you carry home in your head without meaning to, replaying a sentence someone wrote that you can't quite explain away. Researcher Christina Maslach spent her career studying what this kind of sustained, high-stakes vigilance does to a person over time, and her findings weren't subtle. Constant exposure to threat assessment, without any real release valve, erodes people from the inside. You start rank 3 feeling sharp, almost invincible. 3 years in, you notice you can't sit in a restaurant with your back to the door anymore. You notice you've stopped noticing when you started doing that. But you don't quit. You get selected for advanced work. Rank 4. This is the invisible job nobody photographs, because if you're doing it correctly, nothing ever happens where you've been standing. Weeks before a protectee ever sets foot somewhere, you're already there. Walking the exact route the motorcade will take. Timing the drive from the airport down to the second. Identifying every rooftop with a clear sightline to a stage that hasn't been built yet. Memorizing the floor plan of a hospital you hope with everything in you that you never actually need. You are, for a brief window, the single most paranoid person in any given city on Earth. And when the motorcade finally arrives weeks later and glides through without a single incident, no one watching will ever know you were the reason. Rank 5 puts you on the detail itself. Standing post. This is the image everyone already has in their head, except it's almost nothing like the movies. It's hours of complete stillness in a stiff suit, in weather that's either too hot or too cold, that can turn into half a second of pure chaos with zero warning between the two. Your feet ache in a way nobody warns you about. Your eyes learn to move without your head ever turning. Researcher Anders Ericsson built his entire career studying what actually separates experts from everyone else, and his answer keeps showing up in rooms like this one. It isn't raw talent. It's thousands of hours of repeated, deliberate drilling, until the correct response fires before you've even consciously decided to make it. Agents on protective details run the exact same threat scenario so many times that when something actually goes wrong, their body is already moving before their mind finishes forming the sentence "something is wrong." You survive that post. More than survive it. You get noticed. Rank 6, and now you're leading a shift instead of standing on one. You're not just watching a crowd anymore, you're watching your own agents, making sure none of them is the one who blinks at exactly the wrong second. You learn every one of their tells. Who gets rigid under pressure? Who talks too much on comms when they're nervous? Who you'd trust closest to the protectee if the day ever actually went sideways? The pressure doesn't go down when you stop standing post yourself. It multiplies. Because now, if someone under your command misses something, that failure belongs to you too, permanently, whether or not anyone outside the detail ever finds out. Then rank 7. Special agent in charge of a field office. You stop standing in rooms with protectees almost entirely. Now you're behind a desk, running dozens of agents across financial crimes, protective intelligence, and cyber investigations, all at the same time, all reporting up through you. Your day is built out of other people's near misses instead of your own. A threat someone flagged too late. A case that almost fell apart on a technicality. You built your entire career on trusting your own instincts in the field. Now your job is trusting other people's instincts instead, from a distance, without the ability to feel what they're feeling in the room. That's a different, quieter kind of hard. Rank 8. Assistant Director. You're in Washington now, permanently, and the building you work in has more cameras pointed at it than you'll ever be assigned to protect again. Budget meetings. Policy briefings. Testifying in front of people who will never once say thank you no matter how many threats your agency quietly neutralized that year. You sign off on operations for cities you'll never set foot in, trusting agents you've never met to make the same split-second calls you once made yourself. You haven't stood post in years. Some nights you catch yourself missing the stillness. The simplicity of one job, one door, one certainty, watch that door, and nothing bad happens on your watch. And then, if you're one of the very few, rank 9. Director of the United States Secret Service. You are now responsible for the safety of the President, the Vice President, their families, visiting heads of state, and every major national event happening in the country, all at once, all the time. You don't run one detail anymore. You are accountable for every detail, everywhere, simultaneously, for as long as you hold the position. Every failure anywhere in the agency eventually lands on your desk. Every success stays invisible, exactly the way it's supposed to. The stillness you learned at rank 5, the paranoia you built at rank 4, the vigilance that quietly started eating at you back at rank 3, none of it ever goes away once you reach the top. It just gets bigger, quieter, and heavier, distributed across thousands of people instead of one post. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud, at any rank. The agents who make it furthest aren't the ones who feel the least fear walking into a room. They're the ones who learned, rank by rank, year by year, how to keep functioning clearly inside that fear instead of being controlled by it. That skill doesn't switch off the moment a shift ends. It follows them home. Into restaurants where they still automatically clock every exit before they've even looked at the menu. Into crowded holiday parties where their own family can't quite understand why they suddenly went quiet and still. So the next time you see a man in a dark suit standing perfectly still, not looking at what everyone else in the room is looking at, remember what actually got him there. 9 ranks. Thousands of hours of drilling until fear stopped being able to run the show. A career built entirely on being the one person in any given room who is never, ever fully relaxed. He is not famous. You will never learn his name. But for the rest of his life, some quiet part of him will always be standing in that exact spot, still watching the rooftops.